Welcome to BBQCoach.com. Today we're going to be doing beef ribs, but not just any old beef ribs. Dinosaur bones, about that long. They come from the short rib, beef short ribs. Normally they cut those beef short ribs about 2 or 3 inches long, but if you catch them before they cut them, you can get the whole bone. You know, they're about 8, 9, 10 inches long. The other type of beef rib you can buy is basically beef back ribs, which are similar to loin back ribs, pork loin back ribs. And the short ribs are sort of like the pork spare ribs. They come from the short plate on the beef short plate, but I'm calling them long short ribs basically because they're not cut yet. I got them marinating over here right now. Now I'd like you to look at these ribs. They're about 10 inches long, and they go this way. Normally they cut these into short ribs, what they call short ribs. They cut them like this. You get about 3 or 4 of them out of this. But I caught them before they cut them. I got me some dinosaur bones. What I did was pull the membrane off the back. Fairly easy. Got to get that membrane off. On the top side, meat side, there's some silver skin on there that I cut off. You don't have to cut off all the fat. Leave about 1/8 of an inch of fat on there. That's good flavor. But get all that silver skin off so you can rub and marinate and get on down in there. There's actually enough meat on here where you can inject these if you want to. Just use some kind of beef base, like Miner's beef base and Miner's au jus beef base. And that's basically all you got to do to these things. They're sort of like the meat is real similar to brisket meat, so our cooking method is not going to be unlike cooking a brisket. I'm basically going to cook it at 300 degrees for a couple hours and then check on it, and then I'll probably foil it. Foiling isn't necessarily a cooking process. You know, it does speed up the cooking process a little bit, but there's another part to foiling that most people forget about, and that's smoke. If you're getting too much smoke, you don't want to over smoke your meat. So if you're getting too much, if it looks like you're getting too much smoke on your meat, put some foil on it. That's what foil is for. A lot of pitmasters cook by color. They'll smoke a Boston butt or a brisket for 3-4 hours, and then I'll take a look at it, and if it's that nice color that they're trying to get, dark mahogany color if they want a lot of bark, or a lighter color if they don't want as much bark, or less smoke flavor or more smoke flavor. Once they get that smoke flavor on their meat in the first few hours and they don't want any more, they'll foil it. So I'm going to cook them at 300 degrees for a couple hours with a temperature probe in there, and we're basically going to cook them to 190 degrees internal meat temperature. It's real simple. I'm going to just apply my rub, no sauce. I don't like any sweet sauce or anything like that. I like a more savory flavor on my beef. So Like I said, this cooking process is real similar to how I cook a brisket. I cook a brisket hot and fast, 350 degrees for 2.5 hours, and then I put it in a pan, foil it, and stick a probe in it, and continue to cook it until the internal meat temperature is about 190, 195. And then I check for tenderness by sticking a skewer in the meat across the grain in the brisket and checking for tenderness. If it slides in like a hot knife through butter, your brisket's done. If it's not, foil it back up and put it back on. Alright, let's get some of this Chatham Artillery Southwest rub on there. You can get this in my barbecue store. I'm going to put it on all sides. And remember, I like to put my rub on, you know, no more than 15 minutes ahead of time. Put it on too early and it's got a lot of salt in it, which most rubs do, you're going to start curing your meat. And then it might get a gamey taste if it cures. Be like a hammy taste. Put some on the sides. Remember, all I did was trim off a little bit of fat on the top, get the silver skin off the top, pulled the membrane off the back, fairly simple. Hardest part about this is finding these beef dinosaur bones. But if you ask your butcher if they got any uncut short ribs, they probably have some sitting in the back that they haven't cut up yet, so ask them for those. You never see these sitting out, so you got to ask for them. You always see the beef back ribs sitting out in the case, or the short ribs that are cut real, 2 or 3 inches long, so you got to ask for them. Gonna clean the grates a little bit. I don't cook these too often, so I'm going to keep an eye on my internal meat temperature. Put this probe in there right now. For all I know, they might get done in about 2 hours, so. When you put your internal meat temperature probe in there, make sure you don't get it on, you don't hit a bone or a fat pocket. You want it in the meat, right in the middle of the meat. Okay, we'll check back here in a couple hours. Okay, it's foiling time on our dinosaur bone beef ribs. The internal meat temperature on my probe there is 151 degrees, which is about right. And as you can see, it's developing some pretty good bark there, so I don't want it to get too dark, so I'm gonna put some foil on them. Put them meat side down on the foil. If I can. It's hot. Need to, they're pretty big, so one piece of foil doesn't cover it. Just put another one on top like that. This one's real big here. You want to put a meat side down so the meat's sitting in any juices that flow out, you know, keep the meat moist. I'm going to reinsert this probe here right through the foil. Get it right in the center of the meat. And I'm going to put another. I'm going to put these back on and cook them. Cook them till the internal meat temperature is 190. They should be done. I'm going to check them and see if they're tender at 190, and if they are, I'll take them off. If they're not, I'll put them back on. Okay, the ribs are finished. They got up to 195 degrees in about 1 hour after I foiled them. So total cook time here is 3 hours, about 3 hours. Let's see what they look like. Yeah, it's a good bit of juice in there, so be careful when you're opening these things up. Yo, hot too. As you can see, the meat pulled back from the bone pretty good there. I tell you what, that's a man-sized rib right there. Woo! It's too hot to hold. Nice and juicy, nice and juicy. That's ridiculous right there. Look at the juice dripping out of that. Nice and tender, delicious. Ow! It's hot. Ideally, you're going to want to let these rest for about 15 or 30 minutes before you cut into them. I just wanted to cut them up just to show you what they look like. But these are great. 300 degrees, 3 hours, 2 hours out of the foil, 1 hour in the foil. If you want a little bit more bark, you can forget the foil altogether. That'd be just fine. That's about it. Dinosaur bones.